Good morning, everybody. It's the Solemnity of St Joseph. I know you must be saying, how is it today? Well, the feast would have fallen yesterday, but yesterday was the fourth Sunday of Lent. And so the Solemnity of St Joseph has been shifted by a day this year in the liturgical calendar. So our Gospel reading is taken from Luke chapter 2, verse 41 to 51. And I want to go straight away into the text. Um, One question we need to ask is, are all the Josephs in the Bible dreamers? We know of the Joseph in the book of Genesis who was a dreamer, and St. Joseph had sufficient dreams himself. So the Bible today presents us not with the dreamer of the book of Genesis, but with another dreamer. And this time the dreamer is in the New Testament, and he is the foster father of Jesus. St. Joseph's dreams don't require any interpretations like the ones that we find in the book of Daniel or Zechariah, where the dreams have to be interpreted. His dreams are straightforward, though their execution called for tremendous obedience on the part of St. Joseph. And here's the beautiful thing: he obeyed every single one of what God asked for him in his dreams. So I often wonder, then why don't we make much of St. Joseph? In the last few years, we have been focusing on him, and not that he hasn't been a special part of the church. But for some reason, we have made him the third person of the Holy Family and often the least acknowledged for his role. St. Joseph, like Mary, also said yes, and I like to point this out every time I teach about St. Joseph. He said yes to a socially interpreted scandalous marriage. He said yes to being homeless. Remember, he had to flee as a refugee. He said yes also to being a refugee. He said yes to being a foster father. And this last one was really a tough one, where you say, I'm a foster father. It's not that this is my son. Yeah, that must have also been a tough one on Joseph. But Joseph said yes. And yet there are so few hymns that I know that sing of his yes. Yeah, the word in Latin is fiat. We speak of Mary's fiat. We sing of Mary said yes and Mary said yes, but we never have a hymn that says, and Joseph also said yes. Yeah, but Joseph did say yes. Now, the Gospel of today speaks of another lost son. Not prodigal, but a son who is lost all the same. And who am I talking about? Jesus. In a very theological sense, Jesus was not lost. He was where he should be. He was in his Father's house. But his parents most certainly thought that they had lost him. You know, Luke is the only gospel that gives us a story from Jesus' childhood. This very precocious little 12-year-old most certainly gave Mary and Joseph a 3-day fright. And the first words that Jesus spoke in the New Testament are recorded in this narrative, where he says, why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? Make no mistake, for all the love my parents have for me, that statement, coupled with 3 days of insane, stressful searching, would have earned me a good thrashing. And yet I presume Joseph and Mary were silent and not angry. How often perhaps in his childhood had Jesus said things that only solicited very puzzled glances from Mary and Joseph? They must have been wondering, well, where did that come from? What did he mean by that? But on this occasion in the temple, something must have happened in the heart of this ever invisible but dutiful father. St. Joseph, who played his role as foster father to perfection, is now told the inevitable, that Jesus was in his Father's house. You see, father no longer refers to Joseph, his foster father, a title by which the boy Jesus lovingly called Joseph. Now that word father refers to God. Luke makes the new meaning very clear, emphasizing that Jesus, a fully human teenage boy, is also the Son of God and fully divine. And while his heart must have tugged, Joseph lets go. He too, pondering all of this in his heart. He's a good man, this one, a devoted and obedient servant of God. His yes was more than a yes to the divine call. He said yes to his human calling too. He was that just and hardworking carpenter who provided for his family. He was the devoted servant of God who, though was not required, made the trip to Jerusalem every year for the Passover. He traversed hill and mountain on foot, making a week-long journey to Jerusalem with Mary. He not only strived to do what was right, but to do it the right way when he took Mary home to be his wife. He accepted the role of refugee in Egypt, fleeing from a tyrant who wanted to murder his son. He is the silent one of the Gospels. You never hear his words, not once. But you see his actions, and boy, do they speak louder than words. Happy feast, everybody. God bless you, and may St. Joseph protect you. I want to end with a little anecdote that I always tell people. You know, when my father had cancer, and I asked my mother, I said, "Are you worried for Daddy?" And she looked at me and she told me this very beautiful narrative. She said, "When I was a young girl, I prayed to St. Joseph to give me a good husband, and he gave me your daddy." I want to say this to all young women. Pray to St. Joseph and ask him for a good spouse. God bless you. Happy feast. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and I'll see you tomorrow, Tuesday at 9 o'clock.